Berlin has seen great change in the last century, from the capital of the Kingdom of Prussia to the capital of the German Empire. Through 2 world wars and invasion, Berlin has survived totalitarianism, division, recession, and the ravages of the Third Reich and the Soviet Empire. Now it is a centre for commerce, technology, and European travel. All this is bound up in the city's memory, and where better to see it than in the architecture that reflects the city's passage through time. This film sets out to investigate the different identities portrayed in Berlin's wealth of different architecture. We will look at the Wall in Karl Marx Alley, the Reichstag and government buildings, and the new railway station in Potsdamer Platz. We're in search for what messages these buildings portray about the ever-changing city of Berlin.
Loss, sorrow, destruction, separation, resistance, animosity. The collapse of the Berlin Wall represented much more than just the reunification of Berlin. It reunited families, societies and cultures. Previously one of Germany's least endearing icons, it has now been turned into a commodity, of which Berlin is almost proud, particularly at Checkpoint Charlie. However, to the north of the city, at Bernauer Strasse, the pain and feeling of sorrow is much more palpable. The sheer scale and imposingness of the wall dominated thousands of lives for nearly 30 years. Evidence of resistance to it can be seen in the graffiti and the attempted destruction of various places along the wall. The images shown here evoke emotions that we felt were unparalleled to anywhere else in Berlin. They show the separation on personal levels. The emotions held within the bricks and mortar can no longer be hidden. The remains of the wall act as a reminder to how fragile liberty is.
In the next part of the film, we will see how Karl Marx Alley's identity has changed over the last 50 years. Pay attention in the first few scenes how the boulevard will promote Soviet power and classicism. The intention of the development has profound meaning and depth behind it. The grandeur of Karl Marx Alley's columns and regal style was seen as a chance to try and eliminate Berlin's Nazi past as well as represent the new Berlin. The classical style of the 8-storey tall buildings and the thick tiled facades adds to the message of steadiness and the regal style which was meant to be in keeping and emulate other powerful European capitals such as Paris and London. In the second part, you will see that today, Karl Marx Alley represents nothing of what the architects wished to portray. It is littered with graffiti, unkempt verges and overgrown courtyards and is merely seen as a thoroughfare for Berliners to move from one side of the city to the other. Notice the presence of the global chain McDonald's, suggesting that Karl Marx Alley is no longer seen as a grand regal street. Berlin's utopian communist world has crumbled, and now Karl Marx Alley is just a normal street in Berlin.
The Reichstag has been through several stages, representing different things in different times. It was originally built to be an embodiment of Prussian power and was later used by Hitler as a symbol of National Socialist dominance in the city. After its destruction by fire in 1933, the building has been transformed by a glass cupola which replaces the previous dome. The image of German citizens processing through the cupola and looking down on the legislators is seen to offer the message of a new, democratic Germany. Even though the outward appearance of the building has not dramatically changed, what it represents could not be more different. It is now a monument to democratic culture instead of a demonstration of state power. This idea of openness and democracy is visible in the other parliamentary buildings, where glass has replaced brick, allowing citizens to see into the heart of government.
These ideas of openness continue at the Great Glass Central Station. Trains come in and out from all over Europe. It is no mistake the station is a thoroughfare. This adds to the identity of unification where the terminus would not. Lifts and escalators are symbolic of the pistons and belts of an engine. Everything is moving. Vast open areas both inside and outside the station add a feeling of freedom to the space. Cranes still operate here. They reveal it's still a work in progress, but the departure boards tell of a truly unified Germany, and further out, Europe. The station was built on east-west axes. This was with the idea of breaking down that split caused by the wall, and still challenged the older city plan of a Berlin built on the north-south axis by a Nazi regime. Berlin's new upbeat pulse is embodied here. It's a place pushing the city into the future. Similar to the station is Potsdamer Platz. This again is an area of unification built on the site of the old wall. The wall is not remembered here though. It is a site looking only to the future, celebrating commerce and technology. On entering Potsdamer Platz, one's gaze is drawn to the sky where a vast canopy hangs. It adds to the modern surroundings and could be thought to be similar to Britain's Millennium Dome, another city celebration of the present and the good times to come. Cochrane and Passmore were right when they wrote that Berlin is currently in the process of being remade as the capital of a reunified German nation state. Berlin faces the task of somehow combining one dream, that of national capital building, with another, the promise of becoming a global city. It has to position itself with a newly united Germany, but also within a global region. Berlin's buildings clearly have a huge amount of history and emotion embedded in them, and this film has highlighted only a few of those many messages wrapped up in the city's architecture. Berlin is clearly a city in flux, and through architecture this film has drawn out some of those emotional geographies that make Berlin the place it is today.